Hi, I'm Bruce. I want to try my hand at content creation, YouTube video specifically on something I'm very passionate about, video games. But first I had to pick a game which went something along the lines of this.
What to play? Oh. Maybe... No! No. Nah. No, definitely not. Oh! That works. Heck yeah.
Bit of background here. I love these Soulsborne games, which are these. I started with Bloodborne when my stepdad brought it home sometime in 2018. I'd watched my mom play it and struggle with it, and that convinced me to pick it up. Fast forward a month or three when I beat it, and that sparked my love for these games, which are challenging and reward those who put in the time to actually learn and beat the trials and foes set before them. From that jumping off point, I did beat most of them, but these two.
Feel guilt and shame. Guilt and shame.
The topic game of this video, Elden Ring, came out February 25th, 2022, and the weekend the game came out, I would play it till my mom kicked me off, because at that point there was only one PS5 in the house with a copy of the game on it, and my mom was also hooked. My first playthrough was a little over 40 hours, my next was around half that time, and as time passed on, I kept on playing it for 2 years, off and on. Then DLC came out last summer and consumed my life until, well, I felt I was more than qualified to make a video on this game. I'm gonna go through why this is one of my favorite games of all time, and it's not just Stockholm Syndrome. The best way I can think of starting this is to just show a universal first playthrough that everyone has. And the first part of that is obviously opening up the game. After booting up the game for the billionth time and listening to one of my favorite main themes for a game, you're met with the first of two parts of character creation, deciding on a starting class. Got a good number of choices from being a knight, a blade dancer, a Japanese knight, a priest, a nerd, what I'm gonna be in 5 years, or most powerfully of all, homeless. All of these, minus being homeless, give you a starting stat spread based on an archetype, giving you a head start towards what build you want to do. I chose to follow a similar path to my first run of the game. I picked Personal, picked the starting gift, picked the seed or money every time. Everything else is just situationally useful or it screws you over. And moved on to the final half, which is in-depth customization. You could make someone who looks like the hero, someone who truly looks like they could be the next Elden Lord, or a fish pretending to be a man. I should not be allowed anywhere near a character. After deciding to be a fish, you're met with a somewhat important cutscene, and the first thing I'm going to gush over about for this game, the voice acting. Every voice line in this game is done so beautifully and has the proper amount of gravity or bombast associated with it. An opening cutscene has never hyped me up so much from introducing a character called the
Loathsome Dung Eater.
As you will hear throughout this video, from the cutscenes I show and NPC questlines, if I show any, this is a consistent, factor throughout the game. After all that jazz, you're dropped in a church where the game gives you controls. You can move around, pick stuff up, open the door, run, attack, which you're gonna need to do because the first thing is thrown at you that can kill you is the Grafted Scion. And they are here to send you to the main game. You can beat them, which is something I've never done on a fresh run, but you still die anyways by falling off a cliff. Now, some character foreshadowing later, and you're placed outside the tutorial cave, which is a big hole in the ground, that I walked past my first playthrough. That's where you learn combat of the game, but I'll be glossing it over for now. After leaving all that behind, and leaving this grungy crypt, and opening a door, you are met with the open world. like every person's experience walking out of a tomb and seeing the wolf for the first time, you are insulted by a man who looks like he's wearing bed sheets.
Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless.
Like I have any room to talk here. But this guy also gives you an objective and a loose way to pathfind over to it, which is defeat Godric the Grafted for his lunch money and part of the thing that makes up the name of the game. Also, quick talk on the rest points of the game, which are Sites of Grace. You respawn here with your Croak, you can level up here later, sitting at one recovers all health and your healing flasks, and these act as fast travel points. All this is the price of if you ever sit down at one, all the enemies that you've dropped get back up, besides bosses. Last little thing to mention is that they point you in a general direction based off the little glowing wisps that come off them. You can also do this thing that everyone did and try and fight the Tree Sentinel, which never ends well. After ignoring him like any logical person and running past a group of enemies, because I don't feel like doing that, you can get a cutscene where you are introduced to Melina. This game's level up lady. And she also hands you Horse. Taunt saves so much time when it comes to traversal. Because he's generally fast and can double jump, Hans Supreme does have a health ball, but you can sacrifice a heal to bring him back if he does die. And also fast traveling back to the church that I glossed over from the start of the game. There's just a random woman there that hands you a tool to make life easier and just disappears after that. This is one of the things I missed on my first playthrough. I should make a counter or something because I missed a lot. Some from me being dumb, some from my refusal to look anything up in fear of spoilers, and some just because logic died a long time ago and I would not think of that. Fun fact, you can also just say no to Melina's offer to help you, which is funny. This means you don't get taught, you can't level, and no access to the main hub of the game. While you can make it incredibly far like this, the game cuts you off around halfway through, which is kinda lame. You can still beat the game like this with glitches, but it's kinda silly that you can't do it normally. You let me be an idiot, let me live with it, and beat the game like it, because I'm going through a lot more than a normal player would to do this. Editing me here. Some of the background footage and footage for a handful of bosses are nabbed using different characters for reasons that I will get to towards the end of this thing. And that's about it. Back to the tomfoolery. Small tangent aside, the world's now your oyster. You can go anywhere if you try hard enough, even if you immediately regret it, because everything in that area sends you back to the loading screen in a single hit. Following the path post-horse acquisition, however, leads you up to a shack with a potion that gives you Squishy. I like Squishy. And following that trail even more, leads you to the outside of Stormvale Castle, where you are about to get ego-checked by someone who just really doesn't like you.
Foul tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition.
Margit the Fell Omen is the true first roadblock of the game, and he does his job quite well. He has a surprisingly large number of attacks with both his stick and just summoning weapons out of nowhere, and that leads to long combos that he has. And the second phase has even more of those magic glowy weapons for some reason, and that means a lot more stuff for you to learn how to beat. Anyhow, you're meant to lose to Margit and come back after exploring and getting stronger by either leveling up, finding new weapons, or upgrading said weapons, which is a huge advantage that this game has over its precursors. By being able to explore the open world and come back later. This gives the game its own identity and adds more mini-bosses to fight to add to that experience. Because the previous games are more linear, if you got hard stuck at a boss, you just kinda had to suck it up and grind out attempts to get done, or go grind and get stronger, which is something that you often don't have to do in Elden Ring. Heck, I didn't even grind that much throughout most of this playthrough, only kind of towards the end because I wanted to get this stuff to use specific spells. And that was it. Tack on the fact that around 70% of the map is explorable before you even take down a singular boss. Meaning, if you know how to get to places, you can just go there and get incredibly strong, which is why it's not very recommended unless you're doing repeat playthroughs. And, well, also exploring a decent bit unlocks the hub of the game called the Round Table Hold. It's where you find a blacksmith, a bunch of NPCs with quest lines that you're not going to go through, and most importantly, that blacksmith. Please use Hugh. He will help you so much, and he is my boy. Going back to following the base experience, which is coming back after an hour of exploring and kicking Margaret's teeth in, also leads to a more traditional Souls experience in the form of legacy dungeons. I don't know if it's a hot take, but not a huge fan of these. They don't solve the big issue of there's no real point to fight any of the enemies, because if you fight them and then drop dead from getting hit by something that you weren't prepared by or failing some sort of platforming thing, all that time is wasted. And you can also just do the sacred technique of just running away from all of your problems that just always seems to work except for like a few niche cases. At least what I can say is they are all incredibly well done from a visual standpoint, and all of them feel unique and are just generally fun to blitz through if you know the proper pathing. I feel legally obligated to mention NPC questlines, as they are either incredibly simple or complicated and easy to screw up. There are all major benefits to doing them, however, like being able to summon them to help with a boss fight, useful items, or in some cases, a whole new ending if you follow them through fully. I'm keeping that in, screw you future Bruce editing this. Finally, I can chat fully about probably my favorite aspect of these games, the main boss fights. These fights, for the most part, are challenging, and I will be talking about each one that I care about individually because I love them, besides a handful, starting with Godric the Grafted.
Mighty dragon, thou art a true-born heir. Lend me thy strength, O kindred. Deliver me unto greater heights. Well. The lowly tarnished, plain as a lord. I command thee, kneel! I am the lord of all that is golden.
He has an interesting and intimidating design, matched with an oddly simple moveset, mainly because he's early in the game. It's a lot of axe swings that don't take too long to learn, some hand swipes, but he does have two unique attacks, one being a ground slam that you can jump, and the other starts with him creating a whirlwind around himself that can either lead into him launching two projectiles, or a overly dramatic, over-the-head leap and strike down with the axe, which is comically easy to dodge despite how kinda cool it looks. But the real fun starts with the most insane phase transition I've ever seen.
mightiest of dragons. Lend me thy strength.
Now is when the fight fully begins, as you now have to deal with far more attacks than Phase 1, additional fire damage from Phase 1, and the fact that, oh yeah, his head's now a dragon. Have fun with that one. Unfortunately for him, I'm not a big fan of dragons, and hatred is a very strong motivator, so he drops pretty easily. He's not as hard as Margit, but he is still a fantastic starter for just being so memorable and such a fun time. After grafting an L on Godric, you are granted a remembrance and a shard of the thing that makes up the title, which, if you go unlock it at its big tower and use a rune arc, you are granted a boon until you perish. I'm not going to really bring this up again or go through all of them, but pause here if you want to learn about them. Also, the remembrance. Most bosses on the main path to beating the game will drop one of these, and can be traded at the round table to get a boss weapon, sorcery, or incantation related to the fight. To save some time, most of these are alright. There are some that are great, but most of them just hand out a weaker version of the boss's weapon with a weaker version of the signature attack that they do. Like, for example, Godric's gives you like the ground slams, but they don't really do that much and are not that good, which is really upsetting because grafting a small dragon onto your arm sounds like it should do far more than it actually does. Moving on, I quickly want to go over this game's open world again because I have a complaint, but it's one that I have with every open world game. After the first playthrough, there's no point of getting off your horse to go explore ruins or anything of the sort, because you already probably know what you're going to get out of it. And if you want to use a specific build, you're probably going to be fine looking everything up on future playthroughs, because you can't really get spoiled because you beat the game already. My big issue with this is predictability is incredibly harmful to open world games in particular, when your entire point is go anywhere, do anything. It's kind of hard to go like, oh yeah, but I only really need to go heal, 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 and heal. However, like usual with this game in particular, I like the area designs. They all look visually really nice. And, well, besides one of them, that just is yellow land with extra steps, but still, I tend to still like the designs of most of them. Anyway, I'm now going to go through the game's major bosses and areas, because looking at footage of running around is boring and hard to write a script for. So, progression usually means you follow and go to off-brand Hogwarts, where you get to go through a graveyard full of homeless and dogs. And the best student at this school, however, is just an abnormally large dog. And after fighting said dog, you get to phase through solid matter, open a ominous door, and enter the most odd fight of the game, Renala.
Hush, little Calva. I'll soon birth thee anew, a sweeting, fresh, and pure.
You get to punch the slug kids on the floor. You hit the glowing ones, that drops her down, that way you can wail on her for a bit, repeat until phase 2.
My beloved, have no fear. I will hold thee. Patience. Ye will be countless born, forever and ever. Upon my name as Rani the Witch. Mother's rich slumber shall not be disturbed by thee. Foul trespasser. Send word far and wide. Of the last queen of Caria, Renala of the full moon. And the majesty of the night she conjureth.
And phase 2 is much more impressive, but with the same level of annoyance. Her damage gets a huge bump, and she uses my favorite tactic of running away from my problems against me. Plus, the halfway point of the fight just starts summoning things. Okay. It's just an annoying fight, but one that isn't too hard if you know exactly what you're doing and don't get stun locked by something that you weren't expecting, or get a chandelier dropped on your head, or get hit by that one tombstone attack that does a ridiculous amount of damage in phase 1. You can tell I'm only complaining about phase 1 because I actually think phase 2 is fine looking back on it, and I'm going against the script here. But now you can go respec your entire build if you want to, and you have several points in time to do this, and several opportunities to do so. After beating her, you are given the ability to either further progress up into the main capital, or go do other optional bosses. Fun fact, you only need 2 shards to go and go up to the capital. It could be from any of the 4 options available. It's just that Godric and Renala are quite actually straight line on the map from each other, so it's really confusing. Also, quick talk on something to make the game easier. For most boss fights in this game, you can use a Spirit Summon, that bell that the random blue lady gave me. You can upgrade them for more health and damage. Some are light, and some split the game in half, but all on the table is either acting as a temporary punching bag to get a safe heal off, or to help crank in some more damage where you are lacking. Sidetracking to optional bosses before returning to the main game, beating Renala, and going up that funny elevator causes a special event down in everyone's favorite wasteland, Caelid. Now you get the privilege of participating in the Radahn Festival, which is a big party where everyone is tasked with murdering the host, who is completely insane from fighting a figure that I have some choice words to say about, but that's later. But on to the spectacle that is this boss fight. It's treated like a raid boss in an MMO. He is the size of a large mountain. What mountain isn't large? And can hit you from Spain with the force of a train. You can summon others in the arena to help you take him down, which, fun fact, I don't think I actually mentioned summoning at all yet. Typically summoning increases the health, and, that's about it, but if you summon something from inside the arena, it doesn't get that boost. However, A lot of moves, some gravity stuff, and another absolutely insane phase transition. More gravity magic, more random BS to throw at the player, and also just looking incredibly cool. This one took me a while, 5 attempts on this run, so good for him. Also, his little holster he rides is named Leonard, and he learned gravity magic, that way he could keep riding Leonard. And before you ask, yes, I did memorize that lore fact, and also the fact that he has gravity magic, which is why this happens. That meteorite progresses 2 quest lines, and also unlocks a boss I'm going to be talking. Also, via that meteorite, and progressing one of the quest lines, leads you to an area that I hate, because poison but worse is not fun to deal with, and an actually neat boss. A stellar natural born of the void, a collection of pop rocks all mashed together, with a human head, bug pincers, and a tail. Don't ask. So this guards the last half of a quest line that I have not mentioned, but also looks incredibly cool, so I don't really mind that much. A lot of gravity attacks, as to be expected at this point from a giant rock monster. And also, just the fact that he has a one-shot. Yeah, I'm not joking. He has a grab attack that can and will kill you if you get hit by it. I don't have any footage of me getting hit by it because I die to other things because I'm too good to die to a grab attack that one-shots me. I more just live with my mistakes or get greedy. But other than that, pretty basic fight. Doesn't really have a phase 2 despite being a remembrance boss. But pick and choose. However, the rewards for beating that guy is you can now progress the quest line, get married, and I can now command a home invasion to fight a snake that's half the size of its own arena. Don't ask, I stopped a long time ago. This is a gimmick fight though. Essentially, you are handed a snake poke stick, and you have to use that to kill said snake. That snake that does a lot of damage has an attack that's kind of unfair, but but overall isn't too bad. Phase 2, however,
Very well. Join myself and King as remedy. Together we will devour the very core.
it's got an interesting design, don't get me wrong, but not that fun. A lot of swoops, lots of stabs, some snake moves from phase 1, and, well, I just don't like this fight because it's a good fight. They're by nature not that fun to do. You have to use the snake poke stick. Well, you can beat it normally. My brother actually did. It's just not recommended and not that fun. You have to use cheese strats like poisoning him or rotting him, and then running around and hoping and praying to God that you could play for that long. Plus, his second half of Phase 2 gets more explosions, which is fun, especially because I now have to run away from the entire arena blowing up, and I can't really do anything about it, which just kinda sucks. Not an amazing fight, but I kinda like the visuals, so woo. You now get to walk through my least favorite area visually, Altus, by using a medallion to either go up an elevator or going through an incredibly long cave. And going through all of Altus eventually leads to the gates of the main capital, where you get to fight its gatekeeper, who I have mixed feelings on. The Conic Tree Sentinel has a good moveset, besides the fact that his horse breathes fire for some reason and shoots fireballs at you, which is one of the most annoying punches in the entire game. Because if you get tagged by one, you're gonna get tagged by another if you do anything other than dodge. Oh, you stopped and healed, congrats, you're now eating a fireball to the face. It could be 2, it could be 5. Oh, and if you think you're gonna just get close range on him, nah, he shoots one at his feet too. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but I typically like the horse bosses. Just the fact that each of them has a small issue that I have with them that interrupts pacing. Like, for example, this one has fireballs, one that I talk about incredibly briefly has magic. But I typically still like them despite them being a little bit on the unfair side. Main game time now. I'm done stalling. Leyndell is the largest legacy dungeon in the entire game, and it's entirely that you can explore if you want to. Which I don't, so I just take a normal route that I use to fast track straight to the boss fight before another boss fight that I'm going to be talking about. The Golden Ghost is a lesser version of a better boss that we'll be talking about a decent bit later, and by a decent bit later, I mean most of the game later. So, not going to linger too much on him. However, an important face shows back up.
Graceless, tarnished. What is thy business with these thrones? Ah, Godric the Golden. The twin prodigies, Miquella and Malenia. General Radahn. Praetor Rykard. Luna Princess Ranni. Willful traitors, all. Thy kind are all of a piece. Pillagers, emboldened by the flame of ambition. Have it writ upon thy meager grave. Felled by King Morgott, last of all kings.
How many times have I teach you this lesson, old man? And he's got sugar in his veins now and is far faster. He does have a lot of attacks from his first encounter, but he has additions to those and is far more mobile. Also, Phase 2 begins with so many explosions and adds even more attacks. Shocker, I know. Does be a good fight, though, he is actually up there. He's pretty hard because of his speed, but that never fully stops you from getting a hit or two. While he is arguably the like, gatekeeper of nearing the end of the game, if you're going strictly by story progression. He doesn't do an amazing job like he did in his first encounter, oddly enough. But he does get one last laugh in. After beating him, you go up to the big tree, and you're just gonna have to not enter. And as any logical person would do in this situation, I'm going to resort to arson and break out something harmlessly called the Rune of Death to get in. And to do so, you're going to have to do a couple things, one of which being going to the mountaintop of the giants via large elevator number 2. This marks a couple of things. The 75% main story benchmark, and the biggest difficulty spike as of yet. Even with decent armor and amazing health, either to the soft cap or a hard cap, everything 2 or 3 shots you. And because I don't really feel like explaining all of that pain, Fire Giant time. While he does have the most creative name, it's a drag. He has a gargantuan health pool, and a moveset with a lot of ranged attacks and running away, which is incredibly weird when you're the size of the Eiffel Tower and you do as much damage as if you were pushing people off of it. And you're stuck hitting his Tootsies until Phase 2, which does a shockingly little amount of damage even after the base break. And then Phase 2 comes along. How about more ranged, more random stuff that can one-shot you, and he still runs away? Why? It's just I don't understand the design philosophy behind this one in particular. He's big, he's intimidating. Why is he on the other half of the arena launching fireballs at me? I just don't. Anyway, he's gone. He can't hurt me until I play the game again. Sidetracks left 2. We are going to them. You can pick up 2 halves of a secret medallion to enter a hidden entire section of the map with shockingly little in it. And you can go through the snowfield and go through one of 2 places. One of which is something that everyone views as much worse than it actually is. I never have too much trouble with it. Which leads you to the Hallowed Tree, which this is my opinion on it. And the other one leads you to a portal that eventually leads to Mohg.
rest, Mikola. You must abide alone a while. Welcome, honored guest, to the birthplace of our dynasty.
Mog, Lord of Strawberry Jelly, because I don't know if blood in the settings, but he didn't get the memo, is an actually neat fight that I have very little to complain about. A good mix of ranged and melee, good rhythm to it. However, you do need to perform the equivalent of a shopping run to get a random item from a random woman, because the Phase 2 transition hooks quite a bit without it. Then the fight just has more AoE, some add-ons to old attacks. But all in all, this is a fine fight that I have very little trouble with, and like after learning it, and even learning it didn't take that long. Plus, since this is the fight that you have to do to access the DLC, along with Radahn, it's actually quite easy in retrospect. But, take what I can take. One last shard barrel left to fix the old band. Anyway, going through the Hallowed Tree eventually leads you to Horse Boss 2, but magic. Though I am going to say I still like these horse bosses, just a lot more magic than the Draconic one, and fairly fun movesets. I've already high-fived every horse in existence, so... Also, the entire area after her is the biggest mental tax when it comes to routing it, because it's roughly the same size as Leyndell when you actually take a step back and look at all of the branching pathways and stuff in it. And all of the tax of trying to explain that, just like I'm going to do with Leyndell, like I did with Leyndell, I'm not gonna. And then you reach this hallway. Everyone who is watching this, who has played the game to completion, knows this hallway quite well. But if you are one of those lucky enough to not know it, be happy that you don't.
I dreamt for so long. My flesh was dull gold, and my blood rotted. Corpse after corpse left in my wake. As I awaited his return. Heed my words. I am Malenia, Blade of Mikola. And I have never known defeat.
This is the hardest fight in the entire base game. And this is the one that I'm going to be spending most of my voice on. Malenia Blade of Mikola is A unfair boss, not a challenge. All moves do an unreasonable amount of damage, and there is a laundry list of them. And the big problem that I have is that for dumb, stupid 4 reasons, she regains health every time you take damage from one of her attacks. Around 350 on a normal hit, and far more on grabs. But that isn't the most atrocious thing in the fight. The issue is this. That was the waterfowl dance or duck boogie or goose slide. And then it gets much worse. Phase 2.
Wait. The scarlet bloom flowers once more. You will witness true horror. Now, rot.
Oh, you want more attacks to dodge? Well, here they are. Oh, also, her attack chains are now lengthened, and there's more parts to them. Oh, and also, nearly every single attack she does Scarlet Rot build up, which, if it procs, kiss that attempt with that. I wanted to do like an unscripted section going over why I dislike this, how this boss is designed, but didn't really like the final version of it, and it was 8 minutes long, so let me break it down. It's an unfair fight because it doesn't play fair in terms of game mechanics. The heal on hit is constant, meaning that if you make a mistake, it's far more punished, because every fight is then lengthened artificially. You may argue, but the strawberry guy healed in the footage that you showed. Isn't that unfair? No, because he heals once. In doing that heal, you can still punch him. You can still damage him. Argument 2 of that you may have of just get good, that way she doesn't heal from getting hit, feeds into my point. No boss should ever ask for perfection from the player unless it is fully made to do so. The hardest boss before this game's release, in my humble opinion, was Slave Knight Gale from Dark Souls 3. He had no self-heal mechanics and a tricky moveset that did a fair amount of damage, meaning you could make a lot of mistakes and still come out on top. However, if you made too many at the same time, you still lost. Also the fact that he didn't have an attack that breaks his entire fight into mush like Malenia has. The power of ducks breaks the rule that every attack should be reasonable to dodge in a way that a casual player could figure out. There are 3 methods of dodging it, each one getting more and more unreasonable. The first one is having distance and causing her to do the attack. You can always know when the attack is going to start up because it starts up at 65% health. which is an oddly specific number, you may be asking, which is why I know it, because the amount of times I've been killed by it could fill up an encyclopedia. Then you dodge into it if you trigger it from far away. You dodge into it, unlock your camera, dodge away, and then dodge one more time to fully get out of the blast. Method 2 is causing a status effect like bleed or frostbite. Actually, those are the only two that do it, because I think she's immune to poison and rot. And this is kind of unreasonable, because not a whole lot of enemies do a full flinch when bled or rotted. Heck, if you check footage where I bleed people, you see they don't take any extra damage. It's actually not going to show any footage where I bleed people because I don't use a bleed weapon. I'm dumb. I use a frost weapon. But, like, man, I maybe have, like, I don't even have footage of an attempt to, like, frostbite. And the last one is to, if she is in your face, unlock the camera, do a quick circle around her to where she flies off in the distance for a quick sec, and then comes back towards you, then follow the steps from phase 1, from part 1 that I mentioned. Who would figure this out unless they were incredibly desperate? Like, it's just not great. I spent around 2 hours on this fight to get the footage and actually beat it. And it got to the point where I stopped recording attempts from phase 1 and started recording at phase 2. It got that bad. So, I just think this fight is unfair if you tune down the self-heal, maybe to where it didn't also invalidate shield builds, because you'll still take, even though you're not taking damage, she still heals, which doesn't make sense. Or maybe making Waterfowl have a slightly longer startup, then maybe that would actually do something, and I wouldn't have as much complaints, because even if you face tank Waterfowl, she gets a bunch of health back, making the fight take longer. There's just a lot of problems with it that could be fixed, because I actually only have a problem with the Waterfowl attack, because every other attack there is a way to dodge it easily. Waterfowl is a coin flip that can just end your run if you're unlucky. That's about all I have to say for this one. Now that a piece of my soul has been given up, I burn a woman alive to commit arson and get sent to Tornado Alley. This is the last steps towards the end. But before that, you gotta deal with them. The most widely hated boss in this whole game. Because, as I agree with the public on this one, it feels lazy. A good duo boss needs to have synergy with both parts of it. This one does not. Usually that synergy comes in form of one taking aggro from the player and the other running disruption, or something that throws you off slightly. Instead, these are two separate bosses that both try to fight you at the same time and both have the incredibly annoying fireball throw, which, if I have anything to tell you about fireball throws, oh boy. Also, the fact that the health bar isn't actually the full health bar. If you kill one, they respawn, and they continue fighting until the fight is finished. If you can't tell by the tone of my voice, I really hate this fight from a game design standpoint because it just feels half-baked. It feels like something else should have been plopped right here in their place, but there just wasn't. You fight a bunch of beast people during the run-up, and yet here are these two. Here's Biggie and Smalls ready to block your path. Also, fun fact, on my first playthrough, this was the boss that made me start using spirit summons, because I was just getting mad and I thought it was unfair, which is 100% reasonable past me, I agree. After one of the worst duo fights in all of gaming, we reach Malekith / Beast Clergyman. He has a shockingly small amount of health, but he does have a neat array of attacks, actually using a classification of incantation that you can actually get in the main game. The Beast Incantation, because, fully. And then he has no health, so knocking him to phase 2 doesn't take that long, and...
Oh, death. Become my blade once more.
Then he gets a teaspoon of sugar and a cool shell. He's much flightier now, making up for the lack of health, meaning gotta hit hard and hit fast, and I like this fight because it just makes you feel cool, dodging all the attacks that he throws out, and all of them are fair to do so, which is something that some bosses need to take note of. And now...
The rune of death is unbound. and the lands between are shrouded by death's dark fate. But the flames will also burn the impenetrable thorns. Farewell it is then. You'll be Elden Lord yet.
The end is in sight. After running through the action capital and dealing with the node that I left out to skip for the third season of comedy, you get to fight my favorite fight in the entire base game.
It's been a long while, Morgoth. Long and hard didst thou fight, tarnished warrior, spurned by the grace of gold. Be assured the Elden Ring resteth close at hand. Alas, I am returned. To be granted audience once more. Upon my name as Godfrey, the first Elden Lord.
Godfrey has just an unmatched flow in his attacks that makes everything really fun to dodge. Plus, a lot of the attacks are like wide AoEs that are actually fun to dodge because he gives you enough time to get out of the way. And then the gloves come off.
That will be all. Thou didst me good service, Siraj. I've given thee courtesy enough. Now I fight as Hora Lu. Warrior!
And this Phase 2 is one of those rare times where there were new remnants of Phase 1's moveset, and now you're just fighting a WWE wrestler. You get to fight Hulk Hogan in a fantasy video game. He has the most insane grabs in the whole game, which makes the fight so chaotic in a fun way that no other fight in this game does. Also adding to this, he's the only fight in the entire game that just feels fair from both a gameplay and lore perspective. I don't talk about the lore very much, but Godfrey just likes fighting, and unlike literally every boss in the game, there is no cheap trick that he pulled. Him ripping that lion off his back was just him wanting to, not hold back anymore. I just like the fight a lot. The only thing that kind of hurts is, again, the boss weapon not being that good, but his grip is immaculate, so hush. With Peak out of the way, however, we are at the end. Finally. Radagon is a fantastic boss. He doesn't get too many more moves as the fight progresses. I can't speak. Instead, he does something that I don't get to see very often. He adds far more to each attack as things goes on. Plus, when he does actually add attacks to his moveset, they immediately grab your attention and essentially means you have to pay far more attention to his attacks. Him slamming his hammer into the floor, causing massive explosions from the ground, making the Elden Ring, and him just teleporting with small bursts of energy that come after him to interrupt what you're doing, and then he starts up a combo that just goes on for a bit, and then you fully dodge it, and it feels cool. Plus, unlike a lot of other bosses which actually dodge spells, he just parries them, which is so cool, and then he throws, little light javelins at you that blow up. And then, oh my lord, that music. Main theme of the game, but it's still an amazing theme, so shut up. But anyway, that was a good fight, right? You want to see it get ruined? No? Too bad! this is one of the worst final bosses I've ever fought. It does look nice, it has a wide variety of attacks, but the issue comes in is when the boss is trying to flee the country. Constantly. You have to run up to go fight it when it launches attacks from the other side of the arena, and some of its attacks make it invincible, or just put it in a state where you can't damage it temporarily, which is really annoying. You may argue,
Bruce, what's the difference from that one lady running away in phase 2 compared to this?
good retort, but better question. Why is the final boss of the video game running away? Why was it added later that you can ride a torrent in this boss arena? Oh yeah, that wasn't a thing in the base game when it came out. You couldn't ride torrent into it. Also, why does riding the horse not help? The boss was not made for torrent in mind with its attacks. You can't dodge a lot of attacks while on horseback. And if you remember, if torrent drops dead, you have to use a healing flask to bring him back, which is a really valuable resource. And I also think in the footage of this fight, I had no health left by the time, no healing flask left by the time the fight ended. Meaning, essentially, if you lose torrent, you're going to be running a marathon. And if you die, you go back to Radagon, which is a much better fight. And, however, by technicality, Radagon would be my favorite boss in the entire game. However, the issue is, Elden Beast stapled onto him just for no reason. It genuinely drags the fight down so much due to the malignant addition of the world's most aggressive lava lamp. And also because this is the final boss, this is the last impression that the game will leave on the player. It's good etiquette to have a good final boss. What if this is the only playthrough a new player goes through of the game? It just leaves them with an incredibly sour last taste in that player's mouth for going through all of this work to actually beat the game. But at least, it's over now. You can choose to end the game and get the ending you worked for. You can either now go back and fight bosses that you haven't fought, you could go into the DLC if you have it, or you can go on to a new game plus cycle where everything is much harder. But I don't feel like covering any of that because this has taken long enough to write and edit, and I don't feel like losing more to my soul to this game for the purposes of making a video, and I will not be extending the time it takes to make this by any longer. I want to quickly go on about the struggles of making this, because this is my first time doing something and like this, and oh lord, I've been making this entire video while physically in school because I don't have a PC. And because I'm in a vocational school and my lab instructor is incredibly cool and I'm in a lab on video construction and photography. All the tools are at school, so I only have time to work on this while here. And while juggling actual schoolwork. Transferring footage from my PS5 to the school computer was easy. I just used flash drives. However, Adobe does not support the file type that PlayStation recorded footage comes in, which are WebMs. So meaning I had to go through the effort of finding a file converter, and free ones suck so much. They can't process files over 1 gigabyte. Reason one for why some stuff had to be reworked. Meaning I had to go back down and cut them down on my PS5, or heck, go completely refight the boss again. And there's also a limit on how much that you can convert for, like, every day. which was 10 on most of them. And the final sucker punch was that file converters, the free ones specifically, give up after 5 minutes of trying to convert a file because they're lazy. Hence, also why some footage had to be shot on an entirely different character. There's nothing I could do about it. Or, in the case of Mornalis specifically, I lost the footage and I couldn't go back and get it because the boss does not respawn. Combined to this, I wasn't used to hitting the record button and walking around in the game, so that made all this far more complicated. And altogether, this wasn't that fun to handle at all. I won't be making another video like this until I get a PC and actually learn how to record on there to cut out all of the hassle that this has caused. I want to give some thanks to some people that helped me throughout this project. Shout out to my digital media arts instructor for his guidance in Premiere Pro and just generally how to get all of this working, because I'm not amazing at it, but I've had fun learning. To my friends for keeping me from going insane while going through all of this, and occasionally distracting me with the dumbest conversations known to man. And lastly, my mom for listening to me vent all of my problems that I've had with going through all of this. And my lord, there were several.
Hi, I'm recording this after everything because I realized I missed it in the script. So woo. But also I feel like it's important to note. I feel like I've been very negative throughout a fair bit of this with the stuff I dislike, more positive towards the ending because it picks up towards the end. Good game, picks up towards the end. But more negative throughout this entire process. Probably that last entire little section, right before the thanks. That's a lot of. I did not have fun with that part, but I did genuinely have fun with the general creative process of all this. I had fun getting the footage. I had fun, moving everything around, being able to just do whatever I want, besides the script, having to be a little bit more restrictive because I'm in school, and I don't think files of me cussing or making mildly suspicious jokes would be good to have on a hard drive on a school computer. But I would be down to do this again for other games in the future, because there's a lot of games that I like. There's a lot of games that deserve more attention than they have for just being so goddamn good. And also, the fact that between the making of all this and everything, I now have over 500 hours in this silly little game, which is a lot. So, I'm really happy with how this is toning out, in all honesty. Well, toned out. This is after everything. This is silly mode. But I would be down to do something like this again. I don't care if this gets views. I just want to get my opinion out there. I love games. I love all this, and making this has been genuinely fun because it's been I get to learn a bunch of stuff. I like learning. I like figuring out stuff. So that's all I really have. Have a great day. Smile, you're on camera, I guess. Have a great day. Play video games. Do whatever makes you happy. Bye.